Hi, I'm Frank Allen of The Searchers, and you're listening to the Prince of Wales Theatre Show, which tells you about all the events that are coming on at the theatre, especially ours, and we hope you're going to come and see us and have a great time and enjoy listening to these shows.
Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 4 of the Prince of Wales Theatre Show. I'm Dave Thackeray, and let's face it, we're missing a certain someone today, but there's more than enough star guests to keep you company and some brilliant shows and events to tell you about, to take away that dull ache. And on today's show, we're talking all about September. What does that month say to you? Is it tans fading, leaves falling, waists widening? Well, I'll tell you something, there's no waste at the Prince of Wales. September is literally packed to bursting with amazing shows and events. Just to give you a little gist of what's to come, we're talking about, and with The Searchers, we've got talk about Rent, the Prince of Wales's first beer festival, and not forgetting the Backstreet Theatre Company's Our House. Sweets for my sweet, sugar for my honey, your first sweet kiss thrills me so. Sweets for my sweet. The Searchers are coming on Sunday the 28th of September to the Prince of Wales Theatre. You can find out much more about that and all the shows we're talking about today at wlct.org/Cannock/theatre, or you can get your hands around the show notes for episode 4 of the Prince of Wales Theatre Show at wlct.org/showtime. But like I say, The Searchers, 28th of September, that's a Sunday. Hard to believe, 55 years young, this band, with dozens and dozens of hit tracks and millions of fans worldwide. Sweets for my sweet, sugar for my honey, I'll never ever let you go. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd be bleary-eyed and ready for a kip if I'd been to New Zealand over the past few days, but the band's bassist, Frank Allen, is ripe, ready and raring to go, as he always is, and today he's going to be on the show. I love people like Frank. They just exude musical genius, and I can't wait to bring you him.
But even more remarkable was the list of artists, because it was The Searchers, Dusty Springfield, Millie, Marvin Gaye, The Supremes, Martha and the Vandellas, Smokey and the Miracles, Little Anthony and the Imperials, the Shangri-Las, the Ronettes, the Dovells, Jay and the Americans, and the New Beats.
And that was a teaser from the interview with Frank, which we'll be piping into your face in full later on. You might have noticed my rambling and no Richard, so I'm afraid you're lumbered with me throughout, but I have got a very special guest, Caroline Wilson, to share with you now. Prince of Wales Theatre is all about showcasing the best acts from both near and far. Community is really important to us, and that's why we're pleased as punch to be hosting the Backstreet Theatre Company in a few days' time. The company's production of Our House is on Thursday the 4th to Saturday the 6th of September. It's madness, literally. Come here, ears. It's time to find out more from Backstreet Theatre Company's founding member, Caroline Wilson.
Hello, I'm Caroline Wilson of Backstreet Theatre Company.
Now, we often say it's madness on this show, but Caroline's here. No, we feel it even more. Caroline, tell us about your show coming to the Prince of Wales Theatre here in Cannock between the 4th and the 6th of September. It sounds exciting stuff.
Oh, yes, we're doing Our House, which is the Madness musical at the Prince of Wales, which is a story about a young lad called Joe Casey, who on his 16th birthday breaks into some apartments to impress his girlfriend Sarah, and the whole story is sort of like a sliding doors effect. It's about what would have happened if he'd have stayed and given himself up, or what would have happened if he'd have ran away. So the two stories run alongside each other, and it's all set to Madness music, so very upbeat and energetic. and quite exhausting at times.
I bet, especially when you're in the throes of production as you are right now. We'll get into those critical few weeks before it really kicks in, aren't we, Caroline?
It's quite a task to take on. As I said to you about the two stories running simultaneously, it's a very large task to take on. And the main character himself, it's in the Guinness Book of Records as the most ever costume changes for a male lead. There were actually 39 costume changes, some of which happen on stage in about 10 seconds. So it's an interesting task.
So you've got to juggle all of these people, you've got to juggle all these big numbers, and I'm sure most of them, especially me, recognise a lot of the madness stuff because it's so ingrained in our culture, isn't it? You don't take the easy road with your shows, do you? You've done Rent, you've done Jekyll and Hyde last year. What appealed to you about Our House?
The main ethos of our group really is to take on shows that not normal companies would do, so we've always tried to do something a little bit different. The group picked Our House because obviously last year we did Jekyll and Hyde, which is quite a dark musical, and we felt that this time our audiences could probably do something a bit more light-hearted, and Our House is very much sort of fun, upbeat, lively, energetic, so we decided to go sort of completely the opposite this time and do something different again.
We're up dancing and jiving in our seats, that's for sure. Now, what's your role in this madness? I believe you've been with Backstreet Theatre Company for quite a long time.
I have, yes. I was part of the original company, but we reformed again with the Backstreet that is now in 2010, sort of a group of 8 to 10 of us. And then we've been going from strength to strength. And we started with a group of about a small group. And then for Rent, we had about 17 members. We've now grown to 34 with Our House. So we're sort of growing and growing each year as we take on musicals. And we've just picked our next one as well, but that's a surprise. Under
wraps, yeah. You'll have to tease us and appease us on the day. Maybe on the 6th of September when the curtain drops for the last time on Our House. You can tell us all about that then.
Absolutely.
You're listening to Caroline Wilson from the Backstreet Theatre Company, and we're talking about Our House, which is coming to the Prince of Wales Theatre on the Thursday, 4th of September, running through till the Saturday. So if you fancy yourself a weekend sing-along, and I'm sure plenty of thrills and spills, get over to there. Tickets are £12, £10 concessions. You can get them at boxoffice.wlct.org, or the usual number that Richard Kay, our theatre manager and my co-host, will no doubt be regaling you with later. Now, Caroline, this you mentioned before, it's sliding doors-esque. One of my favourite films because it's full of suspense, full of excitement. You never know where it's going to go. How hard is it for a cast of yours, and in quite sizable number, to actually manage this? Because they've got to get their heads around not just the script, but I guess the emotion, the personality and the passion. They've really got to get that under their skin as well, haven't they?
Exactly. I mean, it's a big task for our lead man. He's obviously got to play the same character, but from two different sides of the coin, if you like. So he's got to be the good and the bad.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Exactly, yes, well, almost.
Seamless segue.
Same for his girlfriend Sarah. She's got to sort of play the two roles, all the friends that are involved, and then obviously from an ensemble point of view, they have to react to whether they're on the good side or the bad side. So, and we're trying to do a lot of things with lighting as well, so that it's easily identifiable to the audience, as well as costumes and things like that, so that you can know which Joe you're looking at.
Depends on what side of bed he gets out of on that given day, I guess, isn't it? I know that's probably good for on a Monday morning. That's probably not an easy task to do. I feel for Joe. I really do in this show. It's great. So your players then, they're all local, are they? They're all sort of dotted around roughly the Cannock area.
They are, yes. I mean, we do have a couple of members that do travel, but majority are sort of from the age of 15 upwards. We don't have an age limit on the group, but 15 upwards. So that they can be a member, because obviously we do deal with some adult material on occasional shows, so we do have a lower limit of 15. And
say I was young, and we do wish for these things once upon a time. Would I be able to join now? Is there you do auditions throughout the year? How can I get involved?
We tend to sort of have one intake after a show where we invite people to come along to rehearsals for 4 weeks to see if they like it and if we like them, because we feel that group dynamics are very important. So we invite them to come along, and then they undertake an audition of the 3 disciplines, acting, singing and dancing. And then we go from there to decide whether they're in.
It's all about the chemistry. So when's the next time that people may hear about the opportunity to join then?
Well, after this show finishes on the 6th of September, we carry on rehearsals because obviously, as I said, we've picked our next show, which will be again at the Prince of Wales sometime next year. So we then sort of invite people to come along from there, but they do need to contact us first, either via our email or Facebook page, or give me a call. And then they can find out some further information.
Seamless segue there, because your Facebook page is?
It's Backstreet Theatre Company.
You can't really go wrong with that, can you?
No.
Now, Our House, coming up Thursday the 4th of September, as we may have mentioned before. What's your favourite song from the musical, Caroline?
Ooh.
Put you on the spot.
That's a hard one, because I actually really like Tomorrow's Just Another Day.
Yeah.
Because the sentiment of it as it appears in the show, it's sort of like it's a prison scene, but I do sort of it's very Les Mis. It's quite stompy and sort of a little bit, angry. So yeah. I do quite like that one.
I have to say, I was listening to Michael Ball yesterday at the Lytham Proms, and everything about that musical makes me shiver. So I can't wait to see Our House, and I'll hold you to that, Caroline. It better be Les Mis, or else I'll walk out at half time. No, I'm only kidding. Yeah. I'm only kidding. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely A1. It's been brilliant.
It's the end of that one. So.
Well, yeah. Let's face it. This is a great time, and it's roughly sort of runs at what, about 2.5 hours?
Yes, with the interval, we're probably sort of approximately about 10 o'clock-ish. We're just in the stages of polishing, so we've not quite timed it to perfection yet. But I'm sure when the band are behind us, we'll pick it up a little bit further with the drums.
It's about the right time to be rocking in the hours. I can't wait. Thank you for your time today. It's been good speaking to you. And just to reiterate then, tickets £12, £10 concessions, Thursday the 4th to the 6th of September. boxoffice.wlct.org if you want to book your tickets now, and I recommend you do. Don't want to miss out on this. Caroline, thanks for all your time today, and good luck with the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
Our house in the middle of... Oh, sorry, can't get carried away. Thanks, Caroline. Our House is coming to the Prince of Wales Theatre from the Thursday to the Saturday. That's the 4th to the 6th of September. Tickets, as ever, available at boxoffice.wlct.org, or you can call us anytime, 26 hours a day on 01543 578 762. And if we're not home, just leave your number and we'll give you a bell back. By the way, don't forget you can hire the Prince of Wales Theatre for community events. And I'm just about to tell you, somebody who seized the reins and did just that. We gave you a little bit of a trailer last episode, episode 3, about the forthcoming Beer and Cider Festival. Thursday the 18th to Saturday the 20th of September is the first Cannock Chase Real Ale Festival, organised by the local and very much new branch of the Campaign for Real Ale. Gluggers like myself will know it as simply CAMRA. The best of beer and the coolest of ciders on offer, as well as some really tasty butties and snacks, because you got to slake your thirst and you got to fill your belly at the same time, haven't you, with this sort of thing. It's £1 for CAMRA members, £2 if you're in the armed forces, and pretty much £3 for the rest of us. There's 3 sessions. There's an evening session on the Thursday from 12 till 5 and 12 noon till 11 p.m. That's a bit of a monster run on the Friday and Saturday. Sunday is pretty much a chance to sleep it off if you're anything like me. It's thirsty work, but someone's got to do it. Let's hope it's you. And if you want some more information, head over to cannockchase.camera.org.uk for more info. Don't forget that and much more about today's show on wlct.org/showtime, which is where this show, the Prince of Wales Theatre Show, resides and will do so for the foreseeable future. Just to remind you that this particular show talks about everything that goes on at the Prince of Wales Theatre, and not only are you here to listen to what I'm talking about, but you're here to find out more about where you can find the future events kicking off online. wlct.org/theatre guide is the direct link to our very fancy digital magazine. Full colour brochure comes at no charge to you. Well, you could say it costs a little bit of broadband, but you've already got that anyway, haven't you, to browse the Google and check out what's happening everywhere else in Cannock Chase. This brochure is tip-top, ladies and gentlemen. Bit of Arthur Daly for you. It features booking links, so you can literally click from the digital brochure direct to the box office and have your tickets winging their way to you in moments. This is really cool, futuristic stuff. It's like a cross between Minority Report and Back to the Future. If you look at what I'm wearing right now, you'll know that I'm very much in the past. I might have mentioned that we've got a very special guest, and he is here for you now. Frank Allen, what can I say about this guy? He joined a number of years ago, and I don't want to give the game away. A very, very special year for Frank, and also the band. He is the bassist, and he is the best. And, well, what would you expect? This is the Prince of Wales Theatre Show. And clearly, he's had time to talk to us, and this is a great interview. This guy has got so many tales. He's written books. We'll talk about that as well in the short interview. He's done it all. He's seen it all. And now he's got the icing on the cake. He's got the chance to appear on this show. And Frank, the stage is yours.
Why can't I stop and tell myself I'm wrong so wrong? Why can't I stand up and tell myself I'm strong?
Hello there, I'm Frank Allen of The Searchers, and you're listening to the Prince of Wales Theatre Show.
I've got to say, Frank, you're an absolute legend to me. It's an honour for you to join us today.
Thanks for calling me a legend, by the way. All I can say is set your sights low and you won't be disappointed.
One day, Frank, they'll be saying that about me. In all seriousness, 28th of September, you're coming with the boys to the Prince of Wales Theatre in Cannock, 7:30pm. Do you get paid double working Sundays in your game, Frank?
You're joking, no. I mean, weekends are the normal work days for musicians. It's the weekdays that would normally be counted as everyone else's weekends.
Well, listen, you've just been to New Zealand, but you had a very special celebration over there, didn't you? You seem to have done a fair few years on the track for the Searchers.
That's right. The last night in New Zealand, in a little town called Pukekohe, which is right up the very, very north of the North Island, was on the 3rd of August, and that meant that I'd been a Searcher for exactly 50 years, which was, not a big deal in my sort of thing, but it was, I suppose it was a pretty significant time, which the group completely ignored, of course, which, as it is in Searcherland, the promoters said to the others, apparently, that, are you going to get Frank for his 50th anniversary? They said, you must be joking, weren't you?
We've had to put up with him for 50 years. We don't want to gift him.
So the promoters got me a gift themselves, which was amazing, very nice.
Do you know what? It's incredible. And I had a little rant on a recent show because I'm the biggest fan of the Merseybeat area. I'm a really big fan of Cliff Richard, and I get taken the mickey out of at work when I'm playing my Cliff Richard stuff on the car stereo. And again, the fact that I speak to people about the Foremost, and they're like, who are the Foremost? Really love these kind of bands that really invigorated the music scene for Britain for me. Days go by, Frank, and the less I enjoy listening to modern music and the more I feel bonded to the 60s and 70s sounds. Is that just me, or is that the same for you?
No, it's the same for a lot of people, and that's, I think, because it came from a very human period. It wasn't as corporate organised, it wasn't such a professional setup in those days. We were lucky amateurs, really, and the enthusiasm and the spontaneity of all, I think, was it's part of the lost appeal. It doesn't kind of happen now. And the shows are so good; they're choreographed to within an inch of their lives. Fortunes are spent on the shows, and it's really wonderful. You see an amazing thing, but it does lack the charm of those innocent days when we were just kind of groping around. And talking of you being a fan, I'm a fan of Cliff Richards as well. I was since the very early days when I went to see him at the Chiswick Empire and got his autograph on the Pink Jacket Day. And he's become, a chum in these days. We've done quite a few shows with him. He's become quite a friend. And in fact, I was a guest at his show in the Sydney Opera House about a year ago. Went to the sound check, had a meal with him before the show, watched the show, and some champagne in the dressing room afterwards. So I shall remain a fan, despite what anyone thinks.
it's great when you have generations who come to your gigs, and it's a case of passing the buck down the alley and down the ages, isn't it? You must see grandchildren as well as children, as well as the people who started out with you. That must be incredible.
We get kids we've had them as young as 6, maybe 5, I think. I don't know if we've gone lower than that. But, we get quite a lot of very, very young kids coming along, and a lot of their parents and grandparents. I always say that a Searchers audience these days goes from incredibly young to fast approaching death. So that about covers it, really.
Your first song, if I remember the Searchers, I think it was When You Walk in the Room. That is such an incredible song. And as bassist, you played a really big role in that song and making that sound exactly what it is. You must have been intimidated back then, because already they were starting to be a big noise, weren't they?
Oh, they were a big noise for about a year before that, and it was a good song to come in with, though. Unfortunately, it didn't quite make the number 1 spot. It stopped at number 3, but it's remained the most powerful Searchers record ever. It's the one that we leave right to, after Needles and Pins, because it is so much more dynamic. The audience loves it more. They get involved in it. And it's the most covered of all our songs as well. There have been hundreds of cover versions of that. And so many bands, if they're ever on the show with us, they have to drop that from their repertoire. I mean, it is a classic pop song, isn't it? Great Jackie DeShannon song with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Great tune, great lyrics, and that incredible guitar riff that goes along with it.
Beautiful noise. C.J. Lewis, I don't know if that name rings any bells with you, but about 20 years ago.
Yeah, he did the rap version of Sweets from My Sweet. The acceptable face of rap, wasn't it, really? Because it did have the tune in the chorus of Sweets from My Sweet, and it had the rap in between.
How did that come about, Frank? Can you remember?
Goodness knows, you have to ask C.J. Lewis about that. It just kind of happened, and suddenly there it was in the charts, and it was nice because it brings our name to the forefront for a short while again.
It's flattering, isn't it, to have all these different genres aping what you did, a few years ago, and to actually hear the different interpretations. I think
very much so. In fact, there was in Australia. I don't think it got any further than Australia, but there was a kind of house dub version of Sugar and Spice out there that some weird setup had done. I don't know how far it got. As I say, it's one of those things that are played in the clubs all the time. But it's interesting things they do with our records.
You're clearly international. You've done all the world circuit that many times over. I dread to think how many frequent flyer miles you must have on your account, but I hope you keep it close. You've done all of these great odysseys, and you've written about them. I was made aware a few weeks ago of Travelling Man, your book. I think it's 15 years old now. But, I mean, how did that come about, Frank? Because you're a great musician. You're also now an accredited writer. That was your first, I think, proper book, wasn't it, The Travelling Man? Can you remember what gave you the spark to write that in the first place?
It wasn't my spark, really. What happened there was that I'd written an article and it was sent to a publisher who took it more seriously than I did, and they said, we want a book. How long will it take you to write it? And so, I haven't got a book. I've never written a book. So they gave me a 6-month deadline, and I set about writing what I thought I could write. I mean, mainly I just wanted to get through from beginning to end of a book, at least have a book published. And it was more a book of humour about life on the road rather than facts and data, although there was quite a lot of biographical fact in it. It stayed in print for 10 years. It's about to actually come out on a download for the first time. But after that, I kept on getting pressured by people to write the complete biography of the Searchers with all the details and everything. And that's how my second book came out, which is about 2 years old now, and that will be in print for the foreseeable future. That's called The Searchers and Me, and that's a much, much bigger book. It's 446 pages, 220,000 words, I think it is, and that's got everything I never wrote in the first one, all the details of the recording sessions, the contracts were reproduced, the arguments were dealt with in detail, the court cases, everything. So, I'm pretty pleased with the fact that I've had 2 books published.
You're listening to Frank Allen joining us today on the Prince of Wales Theatre Show, and we're talking about the Searchers coming over to the Midlands in just about a month's time, 28th of September, over at the Prince of Wales Theatre. Tickets, boxoffice.wlct.org. I don't need to tell you, dear listener, you already know this, you've heard the show before, and as I say, we're honoured to have Frank with us, talking not only about the Searchers, about his book, The Travelling Man, and hopefully, Frank, you just give us a bit of a teaser here as to one of those anecdotes that you've got about life on the road. What's your favourite moment?
The favourite moments are the big, incredible shows. You know, my first trip to America, September '64, it was a part of a mini world trip, really, because it ended up in Australia. But we went, the first part of it was 7 days at the Fox Theatre in Brooklyn, 6 shows a day from 10 in the morning to 10 at night, which was quite remarkable. But even more remarkable was the list of artists, because it was the Searchers, Dusty Springfield, Millie, Marvin Gaye, the Supremes, Martha and the Vandellas, Smokey and the Miracles, Little Anthony and the Imperials, the Shangri-Las, the Ronettes, the Dovells, Jay and the Americans, and the New Beats on every single show. I mean, what about that for a lineup? That was stunning. The other 2 main shows that I recall are the Royal Variety Show in 1981, getting presented to the Queen, and the 2 concerts we did with Cliff at the Wembley Stadium in 1989, 80,000 people on each of the days. So they were the momentous things. On the other side of the coin, you know, there are a lot of amusing things that happened through the years, but particularly in the cabaret years when you were dealing with the concert secretaries who used to run the social clubs, you know, and it wasn't really their job. You know, they were breeding whippets in the afternoon and dealing with Shirley Bassey in the evening, sort of thing. And I remember one guy had come to see us, and he phoned up John about a week later to ask if he could book the band, and John told him the price, and the guy nearly fainted because it was like obviously way out of his league. He said, "We can't possibly afford that. We're only a small club." And John said, "Well, that's what we go out to. It's take it or leave it." And he said, "What?" He thought for a minute, and then he said, "Well, we can't afford 4. How much for 3?"
What did he get down to? 1.
Yeah.
Absolutely staggering, isn't it? And that book, The Searchers and Me, that you were just talking about as well, forwards by Pete Townsend. I mean, one of my best friends absolutely adores the guy, and I think that just shows that it doesn't really matter what kind of music you're into. Music unites everyone, doesn't it? And that must be something that you've found.
He was an old friend. Pete was a guy I used to go and watch. When I joined the Searchers, the Who were just a band playing at the Oldfield Hotel near where I lived, and it wasn't till a few months later they got their chance. I remember Pete coming up to me and asking me what it was like joining the Searchers, because it was a big band and it was really exciting. And I was able to tell him it was, and then he was very soon able to find out for himself. In a big way.
Brilliant.
And he's a great guy. He's a lovely guy, Pete. And he was so thrilled. I've been lucky enough to have some great people doing forewords, because for the first book that I wrote, it was Cliff Richard and Mark Knopfler did the forewords. And, of course, in the second book, The Searchers and Me, it was Pete Townsend and Bruce Welch with The Shadows. Strangely enough, Pete's foreword mainly concentrated on my days with Cliff Bennett and the Rebel Rousers, when him and a load of other people, including people like Ronnie Wood, used to come and watch us all the time, because it's one of those bands that every other musician admired.
I wish you'd do a radio show, because those stories would fill the airwaves for months, Frank. And yeah, maybe there's another book in you. Maybe the next forward's going to be written by Lady Gaga and Justin Bieber. I mean, I don't even know they are, but goodness me, I mean, you've covered the gamut here, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't think Justin Bieber knows of our existence, but I'm sure Bruce Springsteen would do one if I asked him.
I'm liking the sound of that. Now, talking about mega concerts, 28th of September over to Cannock, Prince of Wales Theatre. Part of your latest tour. This is another major tour, isn't it, the autumn tour? You've got quite a lot of dates coming up across the UK, haven't you, for this one?
We already did a lot this year. In the spring, we covered most of the country, and we're doing the remnants of places that we haven't covered. These are on our solo all-evening tours throughout between now and the end of September, because towards the end of September, we start the big package tour, the 60s Gold Tour, which is ourselves, Jerry and the Pacemakers, PJ Proby, The Fortunes, Brian Paul and Chip Hawkes. It's a repeat of the tour we did last year. So, people have got their choice of whether to come and see us in a shortened set with all those other great legends, or one of our all-evening shows, which I know is the kind of entertainment that the die-hard Searchers fans love.
thesearchers.co.uk, there's a hash between, or should I say a hyphen between the and Searchers, and
That's right.
curated by your lovely editor Wendy, who does a sterling job.
Yeah, she does such a great job for us, and for the huge, money that we pay her, which is absolutely nothing. she just handles it so brilliantly and really makes the people who get in contact feel like someone, because she always answers everything.
I have to say, Frank, us digital web workers do get paid a pittance, but we love what we do, so that's all the main thing. Finish off with, just take us through the show that's coming up then, September 28th, the one before you get started on the 60s Gold. What sort of stuff can we expect? Because the trouble is with you is that you've written and you've produced so many songs, I think you've got 12 studio albums, or probably many more there.
Yeah.
What kind of things can we expect? Is there a theme here, or are you just going to peel off some of your great
songs? Well, it's the history of the Searchers as much as we can make it, and it changes all the time. So you may go and see one show one time, and it'll be pretty much the same maybe the next time, but there are quite likely to be changes throughout the thing, because we have a few spots where we can vary what we do, and we are a live band, so we can decide the minute before we go on what we're going to play. But yeah, it's virtually all of the hits, and they change all the time. We leave some out every now and again. It's a lot of the B-sides and the album tracks and the EP tracks and things, because I know the people who followed us right through the years really love those little rarities. A couple of golden classics when we're talking about the people that influenced the people that we performed with, and maybe a couple of examples from our later recording period. So you can never really tell what's going to happen in the show. Absolutely, it's very, very loose. There's a pattern that is set, but in the midst of all that pattern, there are spots which are loose and which we change all the time. But there's a lot of communication as well, because you can tell I talk an awful lot, and we talk to the audience and tell them the kind of stories that I've been telling you.
So you're joined by John, Spencer and Scott this time, I guess. They're part of the rabble.
Scott being the new member, of course. Scott's been with us 4.5 years now. Spencer's been with us, 28 years. And John, of course, founded the band way back in about 57 or 58 as a little skiffle group. So a lot of history to go through.
Great stuff. Good luck next month, Frank. It's been an honour to talk to you. I really mean that. Have a great evening.
Bye, Dave.
Isn't it amazing when you think back to those pantheon of greats from Merseybeat? Anyway, The Searchers, like I mentioned before, 28th of September, Prince of Wales Theatre, Cannock. Get your tickets now because they are selling quickly. boxoffice.wlct.org, or give us a call on 01543 578 762. I think it's fair to say that that's about a wrap for us tonight, and a big thank you again to Caroline Wilson from the Backstreet Theatre Company, and also Frank Allen, the legend that is the bassist from The Searchers. 55 years young, that band, and many more years to come, let's hope. Thanks for listening tonight. It is now a wrap, and we can't wait to see you back next month for episode 5 of the Prince of Wales Theatre Show. The Prince of Wales Theatre Show is brought to you by WLCT, a social enterprise working with councils across the UK, encouraging everyone to be active, creative and healthy. For more information, go to wlct.org.